we're getting reports of spontaneous rallies throughout India.
That's right. In fact, I was just at one of those earlier this evening at the press club in New Delhi, where hundreds of journalists, editors of the major newspapers and television channels, reporters, and not just journalists, but also writers and artists who too are under threat. They were all present at this protest in New Delhi, and the mood was somber yet angry. And there's also an undercurrent of fear, I've got to say, because even though, as you mentioned in the report you just showed, that 25 journalists have been killed in India since 2010, Gauri Lankesh really has been the most prominent case so far. A lot of people present at the rally in New Delhi, in Bangalore, in Calcutta count her as one of their closest friends. So there's a lot of sorrow, a lot of anger, and also a lot of fear. A lot of the anger at the protest that I was at was directed at the ruling party, the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, for failing to protect journalists and writers. And really, there was a lot of talk about the shrinking space for dissent.
Do we know any more about the circumstances of her killing?
Well, unfortunately, the police not even arrested, but detained a suspect about 6 hours ago. We don't know very much about who he is, whether he's one of the assailants. All we know so far is that she was shot dead by 3 assailants on motorcycles. They fired 7 bullets. 3 of them hit her in the chest and the head. By the time the police arrived 15 minutes later, she was found dead in a pool of blood outside her own house. Now, the chief minister was present at her funeral in Bangalore earlier today, and he addressed the press later on. And he said that he's directed the police in Karnataka to provide protection to those who express progressive thoughts. So there's a lot of debate around that. Is every journalist or every writer going to need personal security? And how is the state even going to manage that?
Have we heard any statements from the government?
Well, Prime Minister Modi himself is traveling. He is in Myanmar on a bilateral meeting, and he has not issued a statement so far. But members of his party, senior ministers, have come forward to strongly condemn the murder, including one of the ministers in his cabinet, Nitin Gadkari, who said that to say that the murderers believed in our ideology would be wrong and unfair. Other members of the Prime Minister's party too have condemned the murder quite strongly. The Editors Guild of India has perhaps issued the most strong statement, where they say that this murder is really a portent of how there's no space for dissent in democracy, and it's a brutal attack on the freedom of press in India.
You mentioned Gauri Lankesh, a prominent figure, one who didn't mince her words.
That's right. Well, she was so well known. I just cannot highlight this enough. All of us young journalists grew up reading her articles. She wrote extensively, particularly in the last 3 years, in fact, about how there was no longer room to express your thoughts freely. She was a staunch critic of the Hindu right wing, and she really wrote freely and fearlessly about members of Prime Minister Modi's party itself. She was also known as a Naxal sympathizer. Naxalites are left-wing guerrillas who are waging a bloody insurgency in parts of the country. But she was responsible for bringing many of these rebel fighters back into regular society. So she was denigrated because of that. Even now, many on Twitter are calling her a Naxal sympathizer, anti-national, and other terms like that. But she truly was fearless and brave.
Mandakini Galot, many thanks for that update from Delhi.